The conference room stretched out like a cathedral made of light and metal. 12 species sat around a table carved from a single piece of crystal that seemed to glow with its own inner fire. Outside the massive windows, stars wheeled slowly against the darkness of space. This was Zenith Station, built in neutral territory, where the Galactic Security Council met to decide the fate of civilizations. Ambassador Wei sat in her chair and tried not to feel small. Around her, beings of incredible age and power discussed matters that affected trillions of lives. To her left, the representative looked like a sculpture made of living diamond, its facets catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. To her right, and floated in its containment field, a cloud of glowing gas that somehow thought and spoke and made decisions. The delegate clicked its mandibles together, creating a sound like someone shuffling cards made of bone. Its multiple eyes tracked everything in the room at once. Across the table, the war chief sat perfectly still, its four arms resting on the armrests of its chair. The reptilian warrior had fought in more battles than Earth had recorded in its entire history. Had been waiting for 3 hours. The council had discussed trade agreements, border disputes, and mining rights in the outer reach. Standard business. Finally, the council chair, a harmonist from who looked like a person made of soft light, turned its attention to her. The chair recognizes Ambassador Wei of Earth, it said, its voice like wind chimes. Stood, she had practiced this speech 100 times. Honored council members, I come before you today to request that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Security Council, including a seat on the Military Planning Committee. For a moment there was silence. Then the began to vibrate. The sound it made was the grinding of glaciers, the cracking of ice sheets. Its translator interpreted it as laughter. Full membership. The crystal being's voice echoed through the chamber. The humans want full membership. The clicked its mandibles faster. The sound was definitely amusement. How long have they been in space? 2 centuries, 3. 187 years, another delegate said. This one was a being covered in what looked like liquid mercury. They achieved faster-than-light travel in 2158. It is now 2345, barely 200 years. This gas cloud pulsed with colors that's translator said meant humor mixed with disbelief. And they want a seat on the Military Planning Committee. The committee that includes species who have been fighting wars since before their planet had multicellular life. The war chief leaned forward. Its eyes were yellow and slitted, ancient beyond measure. How many systems have you colonized, human? 17, said, keeping her voice steady. This brought fresh waves of laughter. This crystalline structure rang like bells. 17, the control 4,000 systems. The Empire spans 6 galaxies. You control 17 systems and you want a military planning seat. A delegate from the collective spoke up. There were a hive species, thousands of small creatures that moved as one. Their voice came from all of them at once. What is your population, Ambassador? 45 billion across all our colonies, replied. We are 3 trillion, they said. The number in the hundreds of trillions. You are such a small species. What could you possibly contribute? The council chair tried to restore order, but the laughter continued. The delegate rippled with amusement. Have you seen their ships? I reviewed the specifications. They cannot even break the quantum barrier. They still use fusion drives for in-system travel. Fusion, like primitives. What unique capabilities do humans possess? Asked another delegate, this one a floating sphere of condensed gravity. They have hive mind tactical coordination. They can see tactical probability streams. They can process battle data faster than any computer. What do humans have? Opened her mouth to answer, but the war chief cut her off. I have reviewed human biology. You are fragile. Your reflexes are slow compared to most species here. You cannot survive in hostile environments without extensive life support. You have no natural armor, no venom, no psionic abilities. The warrior leaned back. You are prey species that learn to use tools. Clever prey, perhaps, but prey nonetheless. The words stung because they were not entirely wrong. Humans were fragile compared to most galactic species. They needed air and water and specific temperatures. They could not breathe methane like the, or survive hard vacuum like the crystalline. They were slow compared to the, weak compared to the, and short-lived compared to almost everyone. Your fastest ships take 3 weeks to cross a sector that our vessels cross in 2 days, the continued. Its laughter had stopped, but its tone remained condescending. Your weapons technology is centuries behind the standard. Your population is tiny. Your territory is insignificant. And you want us to give you a voice in military planning. You would slow down our decision-making process and contribute nothing of value. The harmonious chair chimed softly, trying to be diplomatic. Ambassador, perhaps humanity might benefit from an observer status first. You could learn from the Council before seeking full membership. In perhaps another century or two, when your civilization has matured. When we are worthy, interrupted. Her voice was calm, but there was something in it that made a few of the delegates pause. Yes, the said bluntly, when you are worthy, when you have something to offer besides optimism and ambition. More laughter rippled around the table. The delegate was practically shaking with amusement. Even the dignified, harmonious chair seemed to be smiling its luminous smile. The war chief wiped at its eyes with one of its 4 hands. Translator informed her that the gesture indicated the warrior found something extremely funny. Forgive me, Ambassador, but the idea of humans on the military planning committee is absurd. We have fought wars that lasted longer than your entire spacefaring history. We have strategies that were old when your species was learning to make fire. What could you possibly teach us? Sat down. She did not look angry or upset. She simply sat in her chair and waited. The laughter continued for another minute, then slowly died down. The delegates returned to looking at their data screens, ready to move on to the next item of business. Ambassador, the chair said, your request for full membership is noted. The Council will take it under advisement. In the meantime, I am not finished, said. The chair blinked its luminous eyes. I am sorry. I am not finished speaking, stood again. You have all had your say, now I would like mine. The vibrated with irritation. We have heard your request. There is nothing more to discuss. You have heard my request, agreed. You have not heard my argument. The war chief waved one hand dismissively. We do not need to hear arguments for why a species of fragile, slow, short-lived beings should have military authority. The facts speak for themselves. Smiled, it was not a pleasant smile. Yes, the facts do speak for themselves. That is exactly what I intend to share with you, facts. The chair sighed, a sound like wind through trees. Very well, you have 1 minute, Ambassador, make your case. Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the table and activated it. A holographic display sprang to life above the crystal table, filling the air with images and data. Thank you, said, but I will need more than 1 minute. I will need 15. And when I am finished, if you still believe humanity has nothing to offer, I will withdraw our application and never mention it again. She looked around the table, meeting each delegate's eyes in turn. But if I am right, you will grant us full membership immediately. This crystalline structure rang with amusement. Confident words from such a small species. Not confident, corrected, just informed. She activated the hologram fully. Let me tell you about humanity. The first image showed Earth from space. A blue and green marble hanging in the darkness, wrapped in white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful, the kind of planet that should have produced a gentle species. This is ours, said. It looks pleasant, does it not? But appearances can be deceiving. The image changed. Now it showed Earth frozen beneath sheets of ice miles thick. Every 100,000 years our planet freezes. The ice advances from the poles and covers most of the continents. Food becomes scarce. Most species would go extinct. The hologram shifted again, showing a graph of human population over time. Humans survived Ice Age after Ice Age. We adapted. We learned to hunt in the frozen wastes. We discovered fire and used it to stay warm. We invented clothing and shelter. We did not just survive the Ice Ages. We thrived during them. The clicked its mandibles, but this time the sound was more thoughtful than amused. And when the Ice Ages ended, continued, we faced other challenges, diseases that killed millions, droughts that turned our farmland to dust, floods that swept away entire cities. The hologram showed images of human history, the triumphs and disasters. We survived them all. Every species has obstacles, the said. This does not make you special. You are correct, said. Every species faces challenges, but most species in this room evolved on stable worlds, worlds with predictable climates and abundant resources. Earth is not stable. Earth is chaos, and humans learn to thrive in chaos. She changed the image again. This time it showed weapons, nuclear missiles standing ready in their silos, bombers carrying payloads that could turn cities to ash, submarines lurking beneath the waves with enough firepower to end civilizations. We invented these weapons, said quietly, weapons capable of making our entire planet uninhabitable. We built thousands of them, and we came within minutes of using them, multiple times. The chamber had gone very quiet. The laughter had stopped completely. No other species in this council has ever seriously contemplated self-extinction, continued. But humans did. We stood on the brink and stared into the abyss. Some of us wanted to jump, but we pulled back. We chose to survive instead. The war chief leaned forward, its yellow eyes intense. You are trying to frighten us, human, to show us that your species is reckless and dangerous. No, said. I am showing you that my species understands the cost of war better than anyone in this room. We know what it means to face annihilation, and we know what it takes to step back from the edge. She paused, letting the words sink in. Then she smiled again, that same cold smile. But that is just the beginning, she said. Now let me show you what humans can do when we decide not to step back. The hologram shifted to show human soldiers in combat. Not the clean, organized warfare of the galactic species, but something messier and more desperate. Watched the council members lean forward despite themselves. This is human warfare, she said. We do not fight like you do. We cannot. We lack the psionic coordination of the. We do not have the probability prediction of the. We cannot process data as fast as the. She paused. So we develop something else. Something you might not recognize because you have never needed it. The image showed human soldiers fighting in a jungle. They were outnumbered but they did not retreat. They used the terrain, set traps, disappeared into the trees and struck from unexpected angles. It was not the organized battle lines the council was used to seeing. We call this asymmetric warfare, explained. When we cannot win by being stronger, we win by being smarter, by being more stubborn, by refusing to quit even when logic says we should. This crystalline structure flickered with light that indicated skepticism. Clever tactics are not enough against superior technology and numbers. Every military commander knows this. You are absolutely right, said. Clever tactics alone are not enough, so humans developed something more. We created an entire philosophy of warfare based on the assumption that we will always be outmatched. She brought up military doctrine documents, human strategic planning guides, training manuals. The text scrolled past in dozens of languages. We call it defense in depth, redundancy planning, distributed command structure. The basic principle is simple. We assume the enemy is stronger. We assume our command will be destroyed. We assume we will lose the first battle and the second and the third, and we plan for how to keep fighting anyway. The war chief's eyes narrowed. Its four hands gripped the armrests of its chair. That is a defeatist attitude. You plan for failure. No, said, we plan for survival. There is a difference. She changed the hologram to show human endurance trials, soldiers running for hours without rest, teams operating for days without sleep, people pushing themselves beyond what should have been physically possible. Human endurance is legendary on Earth, said. We are not the fastest runners, but we can run longer than almost any other species on our planet. We can function on minimal sleep for extended periods. We can eat while under threat, which allows us to maintain combat effectiveness when other species cannot. She looked at the war chief. We evolved as persistence hunters. We chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That instinct still drives us. The hologram showed more data, recovery times from injuries, psychological resilience tests, stress response analysis. The numbers were impressive, but the council members did not seem convinced. This is all very interesting, they said, its gas cloud pulsing with impatience. But endurance and stubborn tactics do not win wars against superior forces. You have shown us that humans are survivors. We acknowledge this. But survival is not the same as military dominance. Again, you are correct, said. She seemed pleased by the objection. Survival is not dominance, but survival is what matters in war. And that brings me to the real point of this presentation. She brought up a new image. This one showed a star map with territory marked in red. Do you recognize this? The chamber fell silent. Every delegate recognized those territorial markers. The hegemony, they said, its mandibles clicking nervously. A level 4 aggressive expansionist empire. Yes, said. For the past 3 years they have been raiding our frontier colonies. They have advanced shields that our weapons can barely scratch. They have energy weapons that cut through our armor like paper. They outnumber our forces 5 to 1 in every engagement. She paused. By every logical measure, we should have lost this war within 6 months. The vibrated with realization, should have. Smiled, the war ended 2 months ago. Would you like to know how? She did not wait for an answer. The hologram exploded into motion, showing fleet movements, battle statistics, casualty reports. But the numbers were backwards. The casualties were climbing. Their territory was shrinking. And the human forces, despite being outnumbered, were winning. They expected a conventional war, said. They expected us to mass our fleets and engage in decisive battles. They expected us to defend our colonies with orbital platforms and fighter screens. They expected us to fight like every other species in the galaxy fights. Her smile grew wider. We did not do any of those things. The hologram showed the first engagement. A fleet entering a human system, confident and organized. Then the mines detonated. Millions of kinetic mines, simple chunks of metal accelerated to high velocity. They could not penetrate shields, but they could slow the fleet down, force it to burn fuel and time dealing with obstacles. We could not beat their shields with our weapons, said. So we did not try. We filled space with debris. We made every system a maze of hazards. We turned their superior speed into a liability because fast ships hit mines harder. The next image showed ships trying to fight in an asteroid field. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable, darted between the rocks. They fired from cover and disappeared before they could target them. We refused to fight fair, continued. We used every advantage we could find. Debris fields, gas clouds, stellar corona. Anywhere that negated their technological superiority, and when they adapted, we adapted faster. The delegate spoke up. They would have simply bombarded your colonies from orbit. They have done this to other species. They tried, said. The hologram showed bombardment fleets firing on human colonies. The cities burned, but the populations survived. Every human colony has underground bunkers, sealed environments that can sustain populations for years. We learned this from our history. We know how to survive when the surface is uninhabitable because our planet has been uninhabitable multiple times. She showed images of humans emerging from bunkers after the fleets left, rebuilding, preparing for the next attack. They could destroy our cities, But they could not destroy our will to continue. And every hour they spent bombarding empty cities was an hour our fleets used to attack their supply lines. The war chief was no longer lounging in its chair. It sat straight, all four hands on the table, studying the hologram intensely. Supply lines. You attacked their logistics. We attacked everything except their fleets, said. We could not win fleet battles, so we did not fight them. We destroyed their fuel depots. We sabotaged their repair stations. We hacked their communications networks and fed them false intelligence. We made every victory costly and every retreat dangerous. The hologram showed ships stranded in space, their fuel exhausted, repair stations exploding from the inside, supply convoys ambushed by human raiders who disappeared before reinforcements arrived. But the most effective weapon, said, was not technological, it was psychological. The image changed to show the interior of a ship. The crew was still alive, but their life support was failing. They had days to live, and they knew it. The looks on their faces were universal terror. We learned early that the value individual life highly, said. So we stopped killing them quickly. We disabled their ships and left the crews alive to broadcast their distress calls. We let them describe their slow deaths in detail. We let their people hear them begging for rescue that would not come. The council chamber was completely silent now. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. You tortured prisoners, the harmonist chair asked, its voice horrified. No, said firmly. We never tortured anyone. We simply chose not to kill them quickly. There is a difference, and the military philosophy had no answer for it. They could not comprehend an enemy that would spare them for strategic reasons rather than mercy. She brought up intercepted communications, military channels filled with panic, confusion, and fear, commanders requesting permission to retreat, crews refusing to board ships, entire units deserting rather than face human forces. They are warriors, said, but they have never fought an enemy that understands fear on an instinctual level. Humans evolved as both predators and prey. We know what it means to be hunted. We know how to use that knowledge. The hologram showed more examples. Human psychological warfare operations, broadcasts of defeats, propaganda that made the humans seem unstoppable. Rumors spread through space about human cruelty and invincibility. None of it was technically false, but all of it was designed to break enemy morale. Within 6 months, said, military effectiveness had dropped by 40%, not because we destroyed their fleets but because their crews were afraid to fight. Commanders second-guessed their orders. Politicians questioned the war. Their entire command structure began to fracture. She paused, letting the information sink in. The council members were not laughing anymore. They were studying the data with professional interest and growing concern. But this was all conventional warfare, they said. Clever, yes. Effective, certainly. But still within expected parameters. You have not shown us anything that justifies a seat on the military planning committee. Smile turned cold. You are right. I have not shown you the most important part, the part that ended the war. The hologram changed to show a facility deep in space. It was massive, heavily defended, buried under layers of rock and shield generators. The military depends on centralized artificial intelligence for fleet coordination, said. This AI processes all tactical data and distributes orders to every ship in their navy. It is their greatest strength. With it, they can coordinate thousands of vessels with perfect synchronization. The war chief's eyes widened. You attacked their military AI. That facility has more defenses than most star systems. It would take a fleet to assault it. We did not use a fleet, said quietly. We used 6 people. The hologram showed 6 humans. They were young, barely out of training. They looked nervous but determined. Their mission brief scrolled past. Infiltrate space. Reach the AI facility, destroy it. No backup, no extraction plan, one-way mission. We sent them in on a stealth ship, said. They crossed space in 3 weeks. They infiltrated the facility using fake credentials and stolen genetic samples. They spent 2 weeks inside, gathering intelligence and planting explosives. And on day 14, they destroyed the AI core. The hologram showed the explosion, the massive facility tearing itself apart from within. And then it showed the aftermath. Military networks going dark, fleet coordination collapsing, ships unable to communicate or coordinate, chaos spreading through their entire navy. Without their AI, said, the military lost 70% of its effectiveness overnight. Their fleet coordination collapsed. Their tactical advantage disappeared. And our forces, which had been barely holding the line, suddenly had the upper hand. She brought up the final battle. Human fleets engaging confused and disorganized forces. It was not even close. They retreated within hours. The war ended 2 weeks later, said. The Grand Admiral signed a complete surrender, full withdrawal from all disputed territories, reparations, a 100-year non-aggression pact. She looked around the table. They have never lost a war in their 800-year history until they fought humans. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Every delegate stared at the hologram, at the treaty documents, at the proof that humans had done the impossible. Finally, the war chief spoke. The 6 soldiers, what happened to them? His expression softened slightly. They knew the mission was one way. They captured them before they could escape. They were executed 3 days later. And you sent them anyway? They asked, its gas cloud flickering with something that might have been horror. We asked for volunteers, said. 3,000 people stepped forward. We chose the 6 most qualified. She met this gaze without flinching. They knew the cost. They accepted it, because that is what humans do when survival is at stake. We sacrifice ourselves so others can live. This crystalline structure had stopped flickering. It sat perfectly still. You are saying that humans are willing to die for strategic advantage. No, corrected. I am saying that humans understand that some things are worth dying for, and we will pay any price to protect what we value. She deactivated the hologram. The images faded, leaving only the crystal table and the assembled delegates. Stood straight, her hands clasped behind her back. You asked what advantage humanity brings to this council, she said. I will tell you. We bring experience fighting wars we cannot win. We bring knowledge of how to survive against superior forces. We bring the understanding that victory is not about being the strongest, but about being the most determined. She walked around the table slowly, looking at each delegate in turn. They are brilliant strategists. They are master tacticians. They have perfect coordination. Every species here has advantages that humans lack. But there is one thing we have that you do not. The chamber waited. Even the harmonious chair leaned forward. We have the certainty, said, that in any conflict, no matter how outmatched we are, we will make our enemies regret starting the fight. We do not need to be the strongest species in the galaxy. We only need to be the species that costs too much to defeat. She stopped walking and stood in the center of the room. They learned this lesson. They started a war expecting an easy victory. They ended it broken and humiliated, their military shattered, their empire diminished. And they were lucky. Lucky, they asked, its mandibles clicking with confusion. Lucky that we accepted their surrender, said. Lucky that we wanted peace more than revenge. Lucky that we chose to be merciful. Her voice dropped lower. The war was fought with restraint. We followed the rules of engagement. We limited civilian casualties. We treated prisoners according to galactic law. We fought a civilized war. She let the words hang in the air for a moment. But humans know how to fight uncivilized wars too, wars without rules, wars of annihilation. We have fought such wars against ourselves. We know what total war looks like, and we have the genetic memory of what it takes to survive it. The war chief's 4 hands tightened on the table. You are threatening us. No, said immediately. I am offering you a choice. They had to learn the hard way what it means to fight humans. They paid in blood and treasure and pride. You have the opportunity to learn from their example without paying the same price. She turned to face the entire council. We do not want war with you. We want alliance. We want to contribute our knowledge and experience to the collective defense. We want to help protect this galaxy from threats that none of us can face alone, but we will not beg for permission to do so. This crystalline structure flickered with light, and if we refuse your application, met its gaze steadily. Then humanity will continue as we have been. We will defend our territory, we will expand our colonies, we will build our military, and if someone attacks us, we will respond as we always do, with everything we have, without mercy, without hesitation, until either we win or we are extinct. You would fight the entire Galactic Council? The asked, its mercury surface rippling with disbelief. If we had to, said, but I hope it does not come to that, because we would rather be your friends than your enemies. She walked back to her seat and sat down. The choice is yours, honored delegates. You can grant Earth full membership and benefit from our experience, or you can refuse and hope you never have to discover firsthand why the regret underestimating us. The silence stretched out, waited, her face calm and patient. She had said everything she needed to say. Now it was up to them. The war chief was the first to move. It stood, all four arms spread wide in a gesture of respect. I have fought in wars across 6 galaxies. I have commanded fleets of millions. I have studied military strategy for 3,000 years. The warrior looked at with its ancient yellow eyes. And I have never seen a species turn weakness into such a devastating advantage. The humans are dangerous, yes, but dangerous allies are better than dangerous enemies. The war chief turned to face the council. I move that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Security Council, including a permanent seat on the Military Planning Committee. The vibrated softly. The sound was thoughtful rather than amused. I second the motion. The harmonious chair chimed, calling for a vote. All in favor. One by one, the delegates raised their hands or appendages, or signaled their approval in whatever way their species indicated agreement. The collective, even the species that had laughed the loudest now voted yes. The motion passed unanimously. Let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Around her, the council members began talking among themselves, discussing the implications of the vote. Some seemed pleased, others seemed worried. All of them seemed to be looking at her with new eyes. The harmonious chair chimed for attention. Ambassador Wei, on behalf of the Galactic Security Council, I welcome Earth as a full member. Your seat on the Military Planning Committee is confirmed. We look forward to working with humanity in the defense of our shared galaxy. Stood and bowed. Thank you, honored chair. Humanity is honored by your trust and will work to prove worthy of it. The formal business concluded, the council began to disperse. Delegates gathered in small groups, talking in low voices, collected her things, preparing to leave when the war chief approached her. Ambassador, the warrior said, I must know, what you showed us about the campaign, was that everything? Looked up at the towering reptilian. Its 4 arms hung at its sides, relaxed but ready. Its eyes studied her with professional interest. No, said honestly. That was the version I was authorized to show. The classified operations remain sealed for another 50 years. The war chief's expression shifted. It might have been respect, it might have been fear, probably both. How much worse were the classified operations? Smiled, but there was no humor in it. The surrendered when they did because we made them an offer. Stop fighting and accept our terms, or we would show them what we had been holding back. They chose surrender. And if they had not, then you would have learned whether humans were bluffing or not, said. But they did surrender. So now only a few people in human military intelligence know the answer to that question. The war chief was silent for a moment. Then it extended one hand in the human gesture of respect, shook it, feeling the strength in those ancient fingers that could crush steel. "I am glad humanity chose peace," the war chief said, "and I am glad you are on our side now." "So am I," said. The warrior nodded and walked away, watched it go, then turned to find the representative approaching. The crystalline being moved with the sound of wind chimes, graceful despite its massive size. "Ambassador," it said, "I owe you an apology. We underestimated your species." "Most people do," said. "It is one of our advantages." The flickered with light that indicated curiosity. "May I ask you a question, a personal question?" "Of course." "When you were sitting here, listening to us laugh at humanity, what were you thinking?" Considered the question carefully. "I was thinking about the 6 soldiers who destroyed the AI. I was thinking about their families. I was thinking about every human who has ever died to protect something they loved. And I was thinking that you needed to understand what makes humans dangerous before you decided whether to fight us or join us. And if we had chosen to fight." Met this faceted gaze. "Then I would have gone home and told my people to prepare for war, and we would have prepared, because that is what humans do. We prepare for the worst and hope for the best." The vibrated softly, a sound of understanding. "I am glad we chose differently." "So am I," said again. More delegates came to speak with her as the session broke up. Some congratulated her. Others asked questions about human military doctrine. A few made quiet offers of alliance and cooperation. Spoke with all of them, professional and courteous, answering what she could and deflecting what she could not. Finally, she was alone in the conference room. She stood at the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was waiting to hear the news. They would be relieved. They had wanted this alliance, this acceptance into the galactic community. They had wanted to be respected. But knew the truth. Respect born from fear was not the same as respect born from admiration. The Council had accepted humanity not because they liked humans, but because they were afraid of what humans might do if rejected. That was not ideal, but it was enough. It was a starting point. She thought about the 6 soldiers again. Their names were classified, their faces known only to their families and their commanders. They had died alone in enemy territory, knowing they would never be remembered or honored publicly. But they had accomplished their mission. They had helped end the war. They had proven that humans could fight and win against impossible odds. Touched the window, her fingers leaving prints on the cold surface. "We did it," she whispered. "We are in." Behind her, the door opened. Her assistant, a young man named, entered with a data pad. "Ambassador, I have the preliminary schedule for your first military planning committee meeting. It is in 3 days." Turned from the window. 3 days, they do not waste time. "No, ma'am, and there is something else. I have been monitoring communications from the other delegates. They are all requesting information about human military capabilities, doctrine, tactics, historical battles. They want to know everything." "Of course they do," said. "We scared them. Now they want to understand what they are dealing with." Hesitated. "Is that what you wanted, to scare them?" Considered the question. "I wanted them to respect us. Fear is a type of respect, not the best type, but it works. And when the fear fades, when they realize humans are not invincible, by then," said, "we will have proven our worth in other ways. We will have contributed to the Council. We will have helped protect the galaxy. We will have shown them that humans are good allies and good friends." She smiled. "But it never hurts to let people remember that we are also dangerous enemies, just in case." Nodded slowly. "The delegates are calling what you did a masterpiece of strategic communication. They are analyzing every word you said, every image you showed them." "Good," said. "Let them analyze, let them study. The more they learn about humanity, the better our alliance will be." She collected her things and headed for the door, followed, still reading from his data pad. "There is one more thing, Ambassador. The hegemony has requested a meeting with you, unofficial, private." Stopped the "What do they want?" They did not say, but the message was marked urgent. Thought about it. They had surrendered 2 months ago. They had accepted the terms of peace. What could they possibly want now? Then she realized. They had heard about the council meeting. They had heard what told the delegates, and they wanted to know if it was true. Schedule the meeting, said, but not here, somewhere neutral, and make sure security is tight. Yes, ma'am. They walked together through the corridors of Zenith Station. Other delegates passed them, nodding in recognition or respect. Nodded back, playing the part of the confident ambassador. But inside she was still thinking about those 6 soldiers, about the price of victory, about the cost of peace. Humanity had won a seat at the table. They had earned respect, even if it was respect born from fear, but knew that the real work was just beginning. Now they had to prove they deserved to be here. They had to contribute to the council, help protect the galaxy, and build real alliances based on trust rather than fear. It would not be easy, but humans were good at doing difficult things. They had been doing difficult things since they were prey animals on the African savanna, running from predators and hunting their food with nothing but rocks and sticks. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars and natural disasters. They had split the atom and walked on their moon and built ships that sailed between the stars. They could handle this too. Reached her ship and paused at the airlock. She looked back at Zenith Station, at the massive structure floating against the stars. Inside that station, the most powerful species in the galaxy had just accepted humanity as an equal, not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced, but because humans were the most determined, the most stubborn, the most willing to pay whatever price was necessary to survive. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not superior technology or brilliant tactics or overwhelming force, just the simple, stubborn refusal to give up, ever, for any reason. Smiled to herself and entered the ship. Behind her, the airlock closed with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The ship's engines hummed to life, and as they pulled away from the station and jumped to faster-than-light speed, allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had laughed at her when she started talking, but they had stopped laughing long before she finished, and that, she thought, made all the difference.